Out of all the five elders, one of them that stands out the most other than Nusjoro is of course Jupiter, the youngest looking elder. There are plenty of theories about the possibility of Jupiter also being a traitor, and him maybe getting killed by Emu at the end. But I'm not going to go over the traitor stuff. Instead, I'm just going to mainly focus on Peter himself. So what makes Jupiter stand out compared to the other elders, other than looking the youngest? Well, for starters, the mythical creature he transforms into is a sandworm. Peter is the only elder whose mythical creature is not a yokai or an Eastern mythical creature. Instead, his mythical creature is from the modern day. Next, we got his name. Obviously, his name is based on the planet Jupiter. In ancient Roman religion and mythology, the god Jupiter is the god of the sky and thunder and also king of the gods. Peter himself also seems to have some references to Christianity. First, when it comes to his surname, Shepherd, shepherds are used to represent leaders of God's people and is commonly used as a religious analogy for God. Then you have the name Peter, which is obviously a reference to Saint Peter, who was one of the 12 apostles of Jesus and also the very first pope. What's interesting is that Saint Peter was killed by Emperor Nero, and in One Piece, Imu's family name is the Norona family. Also, the first portion of Peter's name is represented by the kanji for the number 10, which is also used in the word cross, referring to the Christian cross. For someone who has some references to Christianity, it is interesting that he is grouped with the other elders as a demon and can be summoned from a magic circle that looks like a pentagram. Speaking of the magic circle, it seems each magic circle has a number on them, with Saturn of course being number 5. While the others are hard to tell at first, but it seems like each of them have their own number, and Peter is apparently ranked as number 1. In fact, whenever Oda shows us the order of the elders, he always has Peter shown first, and then Saturn as last. Could this be based on power level? Maybe, but I personally don't think so. However, one possibility that was brought up was that maybe Jupiter isn't actually the youngest of the elders, but the oldest, and that the order of the elders isn't actually going from youngest to oldest, but oldest to youngest, starting from Jupiter. So is it possible that Peter might actually be the oldest despite looking young, and Saturn might actually be the youngest despite looking old? Who knows? Peter is also the warrior god of agriculture, so when Imu was starting up the ranks of the 5 elders, with each of them having a title and important position in the world, one of the most important positions that they had to start is of course being the head of agriculture. So maybe Peter was one of the very first ones that Imu made into an elder, and when Imu gave Peter immortality, he was given that power when Peter was still young. Now, if Peter isn't actually the oldest elder but the youngest, then of course that would mean that in the past there was a previous elder before him who had the title of the warrior god of agriculture. I also believe that if Peter is the youngest, then maybe in the past, way before Garling, Peter was one of the previous supreme commander of the God's Knights. Overall, Jupiter is one of the more interesting elders, and there's definitely more to his character.